We're doing things a little differently this week with the Marvel Snap decks of the week because we've got 7 total decks this week, 2 of which are going to be the bona fide, tried, tested, and true highest win rate decks in Marvel Snap, the ones that you're expecting to hear, the ones that you're expecting me to talk about. And then the other 5, they're going to be contrarian anti-meta decks that give you an opportunity to go against the grain and win some cubes. So the nice thing about these lists as well, because you're going to have, of those lists, you're going to have 4 unique deck lists to Pool 3, and then I'm even going to provide you a Pool 2 exclusive deck list as well. Let's get started. Right off the bat, we're going to talk about the Tier 1 plus Thanos. One might even say Tier S. Thanos is, of course, the absolute top of the meta right now. If you want to get to infinite, so to speak, and you want to do it on the back of Thanos, you absolutely can. The card's absolutely ridiculous, but it's not just the card. It is the stones led by Space Stone, which allows you to rotate cards out of the Lockjaw location. Time Stone, which allows you to get everyone's favorite card out on turn 4, Leech. And if that's not good enough, you have Quinjet, which makes the stones free, which lets you play them to Lockjaw for free, basically creating a massive cycle of rotations and just the amount of value generation created. And you can even have Leech come out on turn 3. If you have Quinjet and then you have stones in your hand, you play them to Lockjaw and pull Leech. It's a turn 3 Leech. It's mind-blowing. The deck list that you're seeing right here is kind of like the established bona fide highest win rate version. There have been some experimentation. Like for me, I personally really like including Valkyrie. If you have Valkyrie, she's a good addition as well. The reason for this is because the Soul Stone, if you play the Soul Stone first and you play Valkyrie on top, the Soul Stone will bump up to a 3. Everyone else's gets kind of changed to a 3 as well, but the Soul Stone will bring the opponent's cards down by 1, allowing you to win the location. I really like the Valkyrie Splash. I think it's really good, but technically it is a slightly lower win rate than this one that you see here. But this deck list is absolutely insane. It is bona fide awesome. So much, I mean, if you have Blue Marvel, you got the stones out, they do really well. Obviously countered by Killmonger. You have the Leech play, which can destroy Killmongers, right? If they hold them to later in the game, which they shouldn't. If you're trying to counter Thanos and you have a Killmonger and Quinjet's on the board, you gotta drop the Killmonger and wipe out that Quinjet with whatever other stones happen to get hit. You gotta do it. But anyways, this is by far, I mean, should I really even talk about this anymore? We know this is the Tier 1 list. We know this is the variation of the winning list as well. So let's talk about the next one, which you're probably going to be not surprised on either. This episode of the Marvel Snap Decks of the Week is sponsored by Surfshark VPN. Surfshark allows you to browse the internet privately, utilizing powerful encryption with fast and secure protocols. It's also a great fit for travelers, as it can be used on an unlimited number of devices while keeping you safe on public Wi-Fi by encrypting your connection and keeping your data secure. Surfshark can be used to access content online without tracking or censorship, providing you with opportunities to potentially access region-locked entertainment. Moreover, for added security, Surfshark employs a strict no-logs policy with 100% RAM-only servers, meaning that any information that would have been stored on a server's hard drive is automatically deleted when the server turns off. If you're interested in protecting your identity online, Surfshark's 24-month plan is a good option that provides you with an 83% discount, 3 extra months, and most importantly, a 30-day money-back guarantee. Just scan the QR code on the screen or use the link in the description below to start protecting all of your devices with 24/7 support. It probably comes to no surprise to you that the next deck of the week is going to be the Tier 1 Shuri list. Yes, Shuri is still at the top of the meta. It is no surprise to you, I'm sure. But basically, the Zero into a Titania play has become a very commonplace strategy, in addition to the Lizard being a very good fallback on turn 2 as well. But the main crux of this strategy here is to play Cosmo on turn 3, turn 4, play Shuri into a different location, naturally. Play Red Skull onto the Cosmo location, which prevents it from getting Shang-Chi'd. And then from there, what you do is you play Taskmaster into one of the other 2 locations that you feel you can win. Ideally, a location that has armor in it. Now, the thing about Shuri is it is susceptible to Arrow, which is ironically in the list as well, because Arrow is just a damn good card and provides you with some counterplay against, well, other arrows. So if you have initiative, you can use Arrow to force their arrow into the location you want it to be in. But anyways, that's a whole other conversation. But the idea here is that you have very good cards. I really like Vision here. Alternative to Vision, players with Captain Marvel can use Captain Marvel, but often I am seeing Vision more often than Captain Marvel in my play experience, but your play experience may be slightly different. But again, Shuri's deck list has become a little more stable over the last couple weeks. There was some experimentation, but I feel like this is the one that a lot of people are turning to in order to make waves in the current meta. All right, so let's start with the anti-meta contrarian deck list. Now, one thing worth noting here is that I did access as much data as I could to help generate these lists to give you guys the best starting point in the current meta. But one thing's worth noting here is that this version of the decks week is a little different because the meta is so unbelievably stale. So you're going to get more of a homebrew style centric kind of couple lists here. So just bear that in mind. mind, right? These aren't like bona fide lists, because like if I want to go back to like the Lockjaw Thor and the Death Wave and stuff, I could have, and you can get those from the other videos. But I think people are really giving me feedback that, hey, show us something different here. So that's what I've got for you this week, okay? So more of a homebrew feel here, but these decks are very good, and I think you'll see that as we talk about them. Now, the first thing we're talking about is the anti-meta Devil Dinosaur. Devil Dinosaur is one of those deck lists that, like, honestly is just really good. You put up a ton of power with Devil Dinosaur. You have a lot of generation with Agent Coulson, the Sentinel, and of course with White Queen as well, but you have to have tools to deal with the current meta. And this particular deck list does exactly that. If you're worried about Galactus, well, you have the Daredevil, which can be utilized effectively with Professor X or with Arrow. You also have a counterplay against Shuri as well, because you do have the Arrow and Shang-Chi, but key is that the Daredevil gives you information, because a common practice right now in Shuri deck lists is to actually skip turn 5 to generate value on the Sunspot and protect from an Arrow play. And if you suspect that that's going to happen, Daredevil is going to reveal that for you. So Daredevil gives you a very concrete counterplay to Shuri, because if you have Arrow in your hand, you know what to do. If they don't play into a location where you need Arrow, you just Shang-Chi, then you can Arrow the Taskmaster after. There's so many different options here. So I think that this Devil Dinosaur list does do a good job of kind of handling that. Moreover, you do have the Lizard, which provides you with the board state advantage under most circumstances to allow you to have turn initiative. And if you're against Thanos, you do have the Killmonger, while only really taking out the Iceman itself. You could use Agent 13 instead of Iceman, but I do like Iceman because it has this combo breaker capabilities where if it hits like Shuri in their hand or Red Skull in their hand, it can be very valuable in the way like this deck list can use generation, sure, but I mean, with Sentinel and Agent Coulson and White Queen, you're probably okay with the generation. But again, if you want more, you know, Agent 13 is an option as well. But overall, Devil Dinosaur, always a go-to deck in Marvel Snap. There's been a lot of talk about how MODOK is probably better than people are giving it credit for. Now, this is one of those decks that I think really performs well. There's a lot going on to it that I really like here. Naturally, you have the Collector synergy with something like Swarm, which basically every time it's discarded and replicates in the hand, Collector's like, I like that. I'm going to go +1. You also have the Morbius play, which is absolutely great in conjunction with something like Mystique. You play Morbius on turn 2, Mystique on turn 3. All is beautiful. You do have the counterplay of the Thanos list with Killmonger, which is great because you literally don't run a 1 in this list at all, so it's no disadvantage with you. You also have the Lady Sif, which is an easy hit on the Apocalypse while making sure you don't hit your MODOK. And you notice that this is kind of thin on discard cards because you got MODOK. And what MODOK allows you to do is basically blow up everything and not worry about it, and then utilize the Dracula to get that extra proc on Apocalypse while playing the Chavez down as well. Gives you a ton of value. Now, this deck list, the reason why it's not like top tier and could be challenging is because Leech does give it some problems. If you happen to get leeched, then MODOK does nothing. Apocalypse does not get its +4 power, and then you know, when you Dracula discard it, you still get the value from it, but whatever, you don't get the additional value that would have been nice because Dracula procs the discard and then takes the power. And of course, you still have Chavez as a counterplay on turn 6, which can't be leeched because it comes out on turn 6, right? So Leech does impact this deck list a little bit, but fortunately, if you don't get leeched on turn 5 and you're able to play your MODOK, you should be in pretty good shape considering you got Chavez and the Apocalypse sitting there as well. And of course, meaning that you don't have, as long as you have initiative. If you don't have initiative, they leech you, then you discard your Apocalypse. Everything feels terrible. But other than that, you know, leech can be a problem. But otherwise, this is a pretty cool list if you're looking to try something a little contrarian. One of my absolute favorite decks in Marvel Snap are ramp-based lists, and we got one here for you. Now, there's a couple things worth noting here. There's a couple flavors of ramp lists that I think that really help people out, but this is kind of the one I want to lean towards. It doesn't use Killmonger. Instead, it uses Green Goblin, but you can actually sub out Green Goblin for Killmonger if you wish, but I would recommend getting rid of Sunspot and putting someone like an Iceman or something along those lines. But what you're going to see here essentially is a ramp list that's designed to counter what you're seeing in the meta. Here you have an Electro Wave, and you can also just leech them. But the idea here is if you can get your leech out first and you leech their leech before they can leech you, well then their leech can't leech you. So that's how you counter leech. You leech. And so that's what this deck list kind of tries to do. It's almost a meme, but it's actually true. If you suspect Galactus, Green Goblin's a great choice. Green Goblin is also great against Thanos as well because it really restricts their space, which is why Debris is often a card used to counter Thanos as well. We'll talk about that later. But Green Goblin's really good because Thanos lists rarely actually carry any destroy cards, despite the fact that destroy Thanos is a thing, but not at all common compared to the list that we talked about prior. What's nice about this list as well is that you do have the Shang-Chi to deal. Now, Shang-Chi can be awkward to play in a ramp list because, like, do you really want to play a 4-drop when you have ramped, right? So it can be a little awkward, but sometimes you just need Shang-Chi in this current meta. I do like Sentinel. I've become a believer in Sentinel, okay? I've been testing Sentinel a lot. It started with me getting the variant and be like, I want to play some Sentinel. I got to tell you, Sentinel is pretty damn good because it's one of those cards that might be being slept on a bit. It's a 2/3. It's decent value. It replicates in your hand. And then what happens is like you always have these consistent plays. And the thing about this is that if you're in a situation where you don't draw your ramp, like your Electro, your Wave, or whatever, let's say you get completely screwed, you don't draw your 3s, the Sentinel gives you an actual turn 4 play, which doesn't feel absolutely terrible. It still feels bad, but anyways, it gives you a turn 4 play in the events that you need to kind of curve out a little bit, which is kind of nice. So I've been experimenting with Sentinel. You could obviously put Lizard there, but Lizard's a little tricky in the current meta with the popularity of Thanos, especially since you're not running Killmonger. One thing I do like here is I do like the Sandman. I think it's a really good splash, especially against any Death Wave-based decks that you are seeing every once in a while. You are seeing Killmonger-based Death Wave lists in order to try and counter Thanos. But the nice thing here is that you do have the counter to Galactus with Green Goblin. You have the counter to Shuri and Galactus with Arrow. You have Chavez, Magneto, and Giganto. I almost said Giganto. It's Giganto. But the nice thing about Giganto and Magneto are both are cards that really don't care if they get leeched, right? If Giganto gets leeched, that's just a bonus. That's just a bonus. Now you get to play the 6/14 wherever you want. The Magneto getting leeched, I mean, Magneto is pretty awesome, but it's still a 6/12. It basically just turns into Hulk. Sweet, you'll take it. So this kind of gives you some like, hey, I got leeched, but I don't really care that much vibes, and I think that's okay because ultimately a ramp list is all about putting as much value as you can early on while also giving you the opportunity to leech them before they leech you. You know, I almost don't want to say it, but I've heard that in Pool 3 exclusive land, people still hate Leech. And they're looking for ways to play around Leech. Well, you can do exactly that with the Patriot list, because if Leech leeches you, then all those leeched cards, well, guess what? They're just no ability cards now, and they get buffed by Patriot. Let's go. That's exactly what you want to do there. And that's what you get here. So you get basically Patriot out here. It's a Patriot list, very stocky, you know, Wasp, Misty Knight. Well, as soon as you drop Misty Knight, what a variant, by the way. When you drop Misty Knight, they know what's up. They see Misty Knight, all right, it's a Patriot list. That's the only card that's ever played in Patriot, so, you know, Misty Knight drops, they know what's up. And then you got Shocker, that's fine. You got the Mystique Patriot play, which, by the way, you don't want to usually hold till turn 6. Mystique's almost a cut, like, almost, because, like, what ends up happening is that you want to play the Patriot down if you suspect that they have a leech, because you don't want to hold them for turn 6, get leeched on turn 5, and everything's useless, right? You have Cosmo, which you can slide not only on top of your ongoing cards, your Patriot Mystique, to protect them, but you can also slide into the Lockjaw location to prevent their stones and from other cards from proccing their effects while they're getting rotated in and out. You also have the Debris, which is great for counterplay against Thanos-based lists because the rocks fill up the locations and basically fill up specifically the Lockjaw location. So they have Lockjaw there. You can play Cosmo into that location, or you can play Debris into another one and throw a rock there, which prevents them from actually playing into the Lockjaw location effectively. You have Wave, which is great because in this particular list, you can actually play Doctor Doom relatively early on, which is nice. It also restricts their ability to play with the stones if they are playing Thanos, which is nice. You also have the Khazar, which obviously goes really well with the Ultron, which throws the drones down, as well as with the rocks. So you have a couple different win conditions, and of course Blue Marvel doing what Blue Marvel does. So this is a really cool list if you want to be a little contrarian, because it kind of disrupts their board state a little bit with the Cosmo and the Debris, while also giving you an opportunity to kind of take advantage of the fact, like, hey, you just leeched my Ultron. I don't need the drones. I'll just throw down a 6/8 that gets buffed by my Patriot. So it's a bit of an interesting play here, but it is, you know, a deck list that I think some people can turn to if you're looking to kind of make splashes in the current meta. All right, for those of you in Pool 2, I got a bit of a unique list for you. It's called the Destroy Dino list. Now, one thing worth noting is that data for Pool 2 is like insanely unreliable because I think a lot of players in Pool 2 are casual enough that they're not like installing like things that are tracking their stats. So what we've got here is a deck list that I do think it'll actually perform very well in Pool 2. And I think that it also gives you some counterplay because I am hearing people saying like, hey, I'm in Pool 2. I must have high MMR because I'm playing against Thanos lists, right? And it's like, oh my God. But it gives you some counterplay here. So basically what you're doing here is you do have the value generation of something like a Agent 13. Obviously you have Nova as well, Bucky Barnes, but you have the destroy package of Carnage, and you can even destroy Sentinel cards with Carnage, but whatever, right? Cable gives you that disruption, also gives you the card generation that you can use for your double Dinosaur. But the key thing here is that you have answers in Killmonger to the plays of Thanos. You have the Shang-Chi for other people's double dinosaurs, and of course for things that come out of Thanos-based lists, or for Shuri as well if you happen to be counting those in late pool 2. The key thing here is that you got the Moon Girl, which replicates your double dinosaur, which allows you to play double dinosaur 5/6, which is really nice as well. Just bear in mind that Moon Girl will replicate from left to right in your hand. So if you have 4 cards, right, she replicates the first 3 first. So it's worth noting how that works, right? Left to right always. Deathlock gives you value with the other cards you have here, specifically the Bucky Barnes into the Winter Soldier. But ultimately, you have a bit of a destroy splash here. If you are pool 3, kind of like if you're getting into pool 3 and you have Death, Death's a very good kind of card here. But if you're playing Death, I would probably take out the Agent 13 and add a Squirrel Girl instead to give you more opportunities to like ramp up and get that Death for free. And then if you can get to an eventual Death Wave list with like a She-Hulk wave and stuff, but that gets more expensive, and that's not pool 2. So this is a pool 2 list I think you can try. If you're interested in watching more Marvel Snap content, got a video for you down below. Thank you guys so much for watching. I appreciate all your support, the likes, the comments, and all the love you guys send my way is really motivating, and I appreciate it. And we'll see you in the next Marvel Snap video.